Hello and welcome to Chapter 9, Section 3, the area of a parallelogram. As you learned last chapter, parallelograms could be rectangles. They could look like a traditional parallelogram. Parallelograms is any four-sided object, a quadrilateral, with two opposite sides that are parallel. So, when we're looking for the area, I need you to understand that area means the number of unit squares, like tiles, that it takes to cover the object. How many little unit squares? What's a unit square? Well, okay, it could be a foot square, it could be a meter square, it could be an inch square. It's a little square. How many of those does it take to cover your object? The area of a rectangle or a square, and that's what this means, the area of a rectangle equals length times width. That essentially L is it's a cursive L. A cursive L so it doesn't look like a 1. Cursive L times W, that's length times width. So for this particular rectangle, if we had a 4 meter by a 6 meter rectangle, our area would be 24 meters squared. And what we're saying is 24 tiles, square pieces that are 1 meter on each side. That's what that means. Make sure when you're doing area, you don't forget to do meters, the squared part, the exponent of 2. What happens when you do area backwards? Well, let's say I had the rectangle with an area of 3,600 inches squared, and my width was 90 inches. How do I find the length of that? Well, if I multiply length by width to get my answer, then in order to do it backwards, I'm going to have to divide. So I very quickly take my 3,600 and see how many times 90 goes into it. Well, 90 goes into 360 4 times, and 0. So my length is going to be 40 inches. Okay? So for squares and rectangles, it's length times width, remembering the meters squared part. Then, what if we actually go to a traditional parallelogram? Well, that's going to be base times height. This is the symbol, a lowercase b and a lowercase h for base and height. Now, with a parallelogram, it's really basic because it's looking for the height that is exactly perpendicular to one of the parallel bases. Because if you take this piece and you cut it off, you can take it over here and match it up exactly so that it then makes a rectangle with a base that's still 10. And you see this height, this base didn't change. And then the height is 3. So what you want to do is find exactly perpendicular height here. And you multiply them together. Base times height, 3 times 10 is 30 feet squared. Now, the only thing I need to warn you about, you're going to need the slant height, which is this diagonal side, when you find the perimeter of things. But you need the vertical height, which is this one, straight up and down, for the area. And I need you to be able to remember the difference. So, sometimes when you're given a figure, you're given all 3 of the measurements, and you have to know which 2 you need for this and which 2 you need for this. So for the perimeter, you would do 22 plus 13 plus 22 plus 13. So you'd need these 2 numbers, and that would equal 70 inches. But for the area, you would need base times height. And you would multiply these together to get you 220 inches squared. Notice that also the units are going to be different. So you're going to have to keep track of those. So I need you to learn this and learn it pretty solidly so that when you see a figure like this, you know which question that it's going to answer. And that's it. So for your practice, you're going to find the area and the perimeter, both, for each of these 3 figures. I've got a rectangle that's 13 by 5 meters. I've got a parallelogram that's 9 inches tall, 20-inch base, 14-inch slant height. And then I've got a rectangle whose area is 136 meters squared and whose length is 8 meters Can you find the height? Can you find the perimeter? 6 answers total. So if you have any questions, let me know. Put hazard signs up next to the things you don't know. Write down any questions you have, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.